Alrighty, welcome everyone. Thank you for coming along again today, and apologies that we had to change the Zoom link at the last minute. Had a few technical issues, but I'm glad everyone's got the new link and is joining up to see us today. So this is a CanvasLIVE event, which, as you may have seen at the last event we did, I'm now running this on CanvasLIVE. It gives us a little more visibility into the rest of the community, which is great, and also makes it a little bit easier for scheduling and inviting everyone along. So I know we've got Colleen on the line who is helping out. She's waving there, howdy, howdy, who's helping out. And Jade is also around today as well. I'm not sure if she's going to be able to make it, but essentially these are the two people that help me out and certainly are helping out online and reading everything you post. So we've got quite a fun-packed agenda for today. We're going to do a quick welcome to any new members that would like to say hello. If you haven't had a chance to say howdy to the group before, please just use the raise your hand function now, and I'll come back to that in a second. We'll do a quick round the group update for what everyone else is doing, just quick 30 seconds per person. We'll go through a quick change of date cycle for the APAC meetings. I'll have a quick chat about how best to remind everyone of the events, because that's been a little bit of a challenge for me at the moment, and I've got a few ideas. We'll go through the top priorities for APAC list. There's been some awesome additions by Jen and Mark, which is great. We've got a discussion on LTIs, which will be led by Dan Addington. Hopefully he'll be along shortly.
Yeah, I've got that for Dan. Kim here.
Perfect. Thank you, yep. Kim. We'll have a discussion on a proposal for the new security policy led by Mark. We'll discuss if we get to a Zoom LTI and enhancements. Kieran's a little unwell today, so may not make it, so we might push that to the next one. And then a couple of administrative things at the end. So fun-packed agenda for us today. Are there any new members that we have here that haven't said howdy before that would like to say hello? You can just raise your hand and I can mention your name. No? Alrighty, we'll jump past that. Does anyone have a group update they'd like to give? If you want to just raise your hand again, if you've got something you'd like to shout out or tell us that you're doing. No? Alrighty. Okay, so the change of date cycle. So following our last meeting and the poll that I ran here within Zoom, and then one that I put up on the community, the most appropriate cycle that it seems, the one that certainly got the highest votes in the end, was to change our APAC meetings to be in line with the beta release. So I've currently set that tentatively at the 20th of March. However, that is the day of the beta release notes. So I'd be curious to get a few people's thoughts on, do we want to do it the day of the release notes or the week after, where you've had a week to play around first? So Colleen would like some playtime first. Marcus, okay, so that's all right. No worries. So what I'll do is the link, which is on the current invite, I'll just update that to be the week after. So that'll be the 27th-ish of March. So it'll be a little bit of a break in between now and when we do the next group update. However, I know it's a very, very busy time at the moment because we're all going into start of semester. So that'll give us all a little bit of breathing space and we can come back fresh after the start of semester. The other thing is I'm looking at putting together a mailing list, because at the moment Jive makes things a little bit quirky for sending out the invites, and I'm currently having to invite everyone one by one, which is a rather tedious task. So hopefully by the next meeting I'll have that fully tested and I might be able to flick you out a link. Once you sign up for the mailing list once, I'll just be able to use that to flick reminder emails out about the APAC groups. So I wanted to do a quick review of the top priorities for APAC, because there's been some great work done by Jen and Mark. So I'll just quickly flip my screens over. So you'll probably see that quite a bit's changed on this, and both Jen and Mark have really taken my original idea and run with it. At the moment, this is a living document, so it's certainly not going to be complete within the next week, 2 weeks. It's something that I want everyone to sort of have a look at and start contributing to if you would like to. I think what I'll do is I'll go to Mark's, as he's actually done some really good work on the actual detail within looking at LTI administration and security. So he's put a great description in, business impact, and also said, yep, he's got 1 vote there. So these are the things where once we start getting this information in, we can start. I actually had a chat with my CSM today, Paul Miller, and they're very keen to get this, start keeping an eye on this. Once we've got the information in there, we can discuss this with Julian Ridden, who's our product representative here in APAC, so that he can see what the sort of things are that we're interested in as a group. So I'd very much encourage everyone to have a bit of a look and a play around the APAC document section at the moment. Apologies, there's been a little bit of spam today. I had to recreate some of the documents because the URLs were broken. But they should all now be okay and ready to roll. Alrighty. So, Kim, do you want to take the floor for LTIs?
Yeah, can you all hear me okay?
Yep.
Good. What I talked to Dan here about was, or Dan mentioned it to me, was about sharing our findings from when we've done a risk and security assessment with the LTIs. And so what I did was just looked at one of the reviews that we've done, and I've just set up an unpublished Canvas document, which I think I probably should show you now, that just shows how it might work. And I think I just need to share my screen so I'll see how this goes. Oh, okay, so I need to have sharing access, thanks.
One moment. Where are we? Kim.
It's still coming.
All right, hopefully that should give it to you now. You should be able to share your screen.
Okay, I'll have a go at this. Yes, it's going to let me share it. Now, which screen? That one, I think it is. Share, and okay. Can you see the screen that is got at the top of it now, APAC sharing of security and risk assessments?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is just the idea. It's a document that we would share, and this is something that Dan discussed with me, where we've done some security and risk assessment, and I guess the main thing here is what information people are willing to share. But we did a LTI risk assessment and security check on Blogger, and I've just put some summary findings on there, and I guess it's how far we go into sharing that sort of information. But I'm assuming everyone can read there the one that we've done for Blogger. Can you all see that? Mm-hmm. And I get, yeah, it's I guess how far we go into much more detail on that, but basically they're the general findings we found in relation to privacy, content ownership and control, contract term and termination liability. And I guess what we'd want to know today is there other headings that would be suitable, and how much more detail, is that enough detail? And the idea is that if you as an institution or an organisation do your own Blogger LTI security check, you could add a new row to that, or how that might work. I'm thinking you would add your new row, and then someone that's about to do this sort of checking could look at this page, say, oh look, these 2 universities have already done that check, and you could look and get some background information and make it a lot easier for all of us. So I guess that's the concept. I'm just looking for any feedback to see if I go ahead and publish that, and I just got to check with Mark here, make sure, you know, who, I guess, yeah, is this something that just double checking we're willing to share that sort of information.
I think, Kim, I think this is great. In principle, I don't think that we would have an issue sharing the same level of information as well.
Yep.
Coincidentally, I have a meeting, I think on Monday, with our security risk assessment folks who have been swamped with requests to assess different LTIs, like we said they would be. And now they want to have a conversation about how to streamline that process. And I'll throw this particular issue into the mix with them. And see if this kind of information will help them streamline some of their processes as well.
Yeah, thanks, Marcus. Yeah, just the other thing I was going to say is if you want more detail there, this really indicates that the contact or the university or the RTO or whoever it is, you know that it's been done by that organisation and you know who to contact. So it's not just the information on this table, it's knowing that it's been done by someone else and having a contact. And I'd probably refer you on to Dan or someone like that in this case.
Yeah, that's right. So if somebody does need to get more details, then you've got a point person to follow up with, right?
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. So if everyone's okay with that, then I'll just, yeah, if you want to maybe email me or give me any feedback, extra columns is one thing. And then I'll just double check on how I get that published, because at the moment it's only in draft format. I've got it hopefully ready to go.
Yeah, I was just going to suggest maybe one more column on some of the LTIs that are using the API access as well.
Okay.
Because one of the things I suggested to my security guys was first that they just understand the general security around the actual LTI standard. But obviously that kind of gets thrown out when an LTI requires full API access, because obviously they then have access to everything, not just the limitations of a normal LTI. So it's be very good to know which one of the LTIs are also requesting that additional access, because sometimes it's not very clear in a lot of places, and you don't really find that out until you're actually installing it, and they tell you, oh, by the way, we just need your key and secret and everything to access your whole system, and that I think makes a huge difference all of a sudden as to what you're giving them access to.
Yeah. So what would the column heading be then, or what do you suggest the column heading? So it's it is a new column, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it'd probably just be I don't know, API access or something like that.
Yeah.
Nice. A really interesting question that I'd ask following that is, one of the things that's concerned me when we've been doing a similar review is that the APIs are currently really an all or nothing solution in this area. I was pondering whether I log a feature ID to request essentially API roles and the ability to, on a per call basis, give or deny access to a user, so that when we would get granting access for LTIs, we could actually only grant them access to what they need to, rather than the all or nothing solution. Is that something that people would be curious for me to log and put onto the priority list and really start collecting people's thoughts on?
Yeah, I think that's certainly an interesting idea. It's certainly better than, as you said, the all or nothing kind of problem that we have now, where it does seem like having to have all is like way too much. And when it's kind of funny, because if you use JavaScript, you have access to things through the API, but it's limited to the user of the current user sort of thing, whereas the only current user that is available in the API essentially is the administrator. So that is the user level you get, full administrator. Would almost be useful to actually have like a role. You could say that role is designated to that or to your APIs, and you limit them, so you can shut down things. Yeah.
Awesome. I'll take that away as an action item. I will put something together for that. Kim, the other thing which I was thinking would just be a really good high level column to have is, where is the data currently hosted? i.e., is it in Australia? Are they looking to potentially come out to Australia, or are they kind of US only? Because that's really the first top level question I generally ask.
Yeah, I'm assuming for us that sits under one of those 4. But yeah, if you think that needs a new, what warrants a new column, yeah, I could add that in. So where is the data hosted? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
You're just going back. It's Mark here from Adelaide. Just going back to access. We find that with the LTIs, there's really the 4 core levels, which is sort of anonymous, email, name only, and virtually everything. And then there's the API. So I think if we, in that column, if we list what the LTI is wanting, no, internally it's only the sort of the one that sort of gets all the information about the students that we're concerned about. And interesting, we're only concerned about it because it includes the student's avatar, and in a lot of cases the student's avatar is their picture. And so that's the only one, everything else is public. So it's interesting that that one is the one that holds us up when we see a public setting in the LTI, and we have to actually dig deeper. So if it's public or if it requires the API, then we go through a full security list. If it's any of the other 3, we're not overly worried about that data, and so therefore we do a much lighter security assessment. So that sort of level of detail about that connection would be useful in this list.
I probably should just add here that I think I'm going to change the name Kim Schutz there to Dan Addington, but
Excellent. Does anyone else have any more questions for Kim? Kim, that was awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, that's good.
No worries. Thanks. I'll stop sharing.
Thank you.
For now.
All right, just give me a second and I'll get my screen back up. All right, proposal for new security policy, Mark.
Yep.
Would you like me to give you access to share your screen?
Yeah, if I knew where I was going. I'm just trying to remember where the link was. I think, did we put it on the front here somewhere, didn't we? Proposal, yeah. All right.
I can grab the link for you.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, look, I'm not going to talk through the whole thing because it's a pretty long post, actually.
That's
the
it
new
there.
proposal. Yeah. Look, I mean, I sort of just mentioned to Stuart that I thought it was worth bringing up, so that everybody was aware that Canvas was reviewing their security policy around JavaScript, and they didn't really. I must admit, they weren't particularly clear on what they were planning on doing. Especially after reading a lot of the comments, a lot of people are a bit confused as to what they're actually planning on doing after they've posted this particular update for everybody. But basically, they're looking at removing some of the JavaScript functionality within a course. That is, and if you happen to have a HTML file with a JavaScript reference in it in a course, they're looking at disabling that either totally or having it as an option, as in you could sort of switch it on and off. There was a bit of confusion around what they were going to do with iframes, I must say, into that, because I think a lot of other users were putting HTML pages that had JavaScript in them and then iframing them into their actual content pages to run interactives and such. I think from what I could gather, that would be one thing that would be affected. But again, there was a lot of confusion on the forum as to actually what that meant. And hopefully, hopefully that would actually add in enough controls to allow us as the administrators, at least, well, not me, but the administrators, to choose, what level of on or off that kind of setting would be. But I think it's definitely important, I guess, that they have, more security around JavaScript. Is just sort of trying to get the right level of control so that we can choose it as well, I think is the important thing. But yeah, unfortunately, they've already closed any discussion. So if you had anything you wanted to tell them, they've already shut it off pretty quickly. So it's a very short here you can talk about it, now you can't, sort of thing. So I guess I'm assuming they're going to tell us a bit more in a few weeks what is actually going to go on there. So yeah.
Yeah, I had a look at it, and I think, if I remember correctly, they were looking at giving it as an option to the institution. So they're not going to completely turn it off, but I think it's an interesting. I mean, it's great to see that they are offering a setting now, but it may be something that we need to consider, that if you are using it, it may get to the point at some point down the track where they may decide to remove it more completely.
Yeah. I think one of the better ideas I actually saw on that list of feedback was whitelisting of JavaScripts, so that rather than things just being completely allowed or not allowed, an institution could say, oh yeah, we're happy to have scripts from Twitter and YouTube running, and we're happy to have our own institution scripts running, and and that kind of level of control would be, I think, a lot more appropriate than just on or off, because on or off's a very hard way of managing things, I think, with this particular subject anyway.
Awesome, thank you for that. Does anyone have any questions, thoughts, ideas, feedback?
Probably a good idea to switch it off generally and switch it on as people need it for individual courses, because they can do a bit of damage.
I'll be interested to see if they do it as a per course option or whether it's all or nothing. I got the impression reading it originally that it was going to be you can either do it account wide or you can't do it account wide. I don't know if they're going to go down to the sub account level. So that's something interesting. I can take that back and see if I can chat through the Slack channel I've got with the other coaches and see if anyone knows anything more on that one and bring that back to the group.
Yeah. One of the I mean, on the only post, the post I put through was actually look at maybe applying it to the role level, so that a teacher or a builder or the administrator would have the rights to post something that had scripts. But if you were a student, it would just automatically strip out anything, obviously. And so it was a bit easier to handle, because you could then apply that to sub accounts and, different faculties or, that sort of thing as well if you wanted to. So it seemed to me like having a role-based would be a bit easier than just having it to the whole institution. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you for that. It's certainly one that I know I'll be having a look at in a little more detail. I'm curious to see what they come out with in the next couple of weeks. Hopefully we'll have a little more detail about exactly what they're planning to do with it. But I know certainly when I floated it with our users here, they went, "Wait, what? You're going to stop us from doing that?" Because it's been a nice little workaround, but I've almost wondered whether we need a proper LTI tool just to handle doing this safely and securely outside of injecting JavaScript into the Canvas interface. Because at least with an LTI tool, it's self-contained within the iframe, rather than actually then getting access to the Canvas environment variables and other data that may be there, which has always been my concern. Excellent. Okay. Unfortunately, Kieran is unwell, so won't be able to go through the Zoom LTI and enhancements today. I will get him to go through that next time. We're looking at Zoom quite deeply here at UTS. We've just gone live with it. So we'd be very curious to have a chat with other institutions that are also using Zoom and your experiences with the new LTI that's just been released. And hopefully the newer versions which are coming in the next couple of months. So just a couple of things from my side to finish up. I would be very much welcoming anyone that would like to do a presentation or lead a discussion for the next group meeting. Is there anyone that might be willing to go through the beta release notes and lead a bit of a discussion on that? That would be absolutely wonderful if there's someone that might like to volunteer.
Hands up. When are they coming out?
All right, I will hopefully if anyone does think they'd like to do that, please just drop me a message or an email. I'd be more than happy. Is there anything else that anyone would like to raise? Anything new that's come up? Something that wasn't on the agenda? We've got a fair bit of time available, so.
We got an email today. I don't know if anyone else got it from Turnitin making the new plagiarism framework integration available. They kind of left it a bit late. Semester starts in 2 weeks. But we are. I emailed them back and said, does it run with the current LTI integration? And she said, absolutely, you could have both going at the same time. So we are considering making it available, to half a dozen academics who are a bit more adventurous. To me, it's a much better integration. They say it's now out of beta. So yeah, I don't know if anyone else got that invite, but we're possibly going to run a little trial. So we can report back on that.
So it's Mark here from Adelaide University. We've been beta trialling it for the last couple of months.
Okay.
So it seems to in itself work. We haven't had any problems with it. The initial beta, and we've been waiting for a release, and we haven't seen the software, although we've got the same information that you've got. When we first installed it, it's added a whole heap of other LTIs into your LTI list. So when you go to configure LTIs, you get 4 or 5 Turnitin LTIs, and we told them, we won't run it in production until they fix that, and they have assured us that once they get past beta, it will be fixed. So we haven't seen that fix, and we haven't put it in yet, but that will be just something to check. Our experience with our academics is that the ones that love marking with Turnitin, and so therefore like sharing the comments, want to stay with Turnitin. But the ones that aren't wedded to Turnitin, they really quite like this new, and unfortunately it's called plagiarism framework. We've argued with Canvas that we need to rename that down here for us, but they're not going to move. So yeah, we'll probably, if we can, turn both on for all our courses for semester 1.
Well, okay. What's that? So we're about to, we had 100 units of study last semester, and we're reading all the problems people have with Turnitin and syncing grades and things. So.
Absolute pain in the arse.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm expecting that.
Yeah.
Does this fix any of those issues?
Well, it totally removes them. And one of the good things about this solution is that what you're effectively doing is you're using a Canvas assignment. So the students, the academics set it up in Canvas. There's an extra configuration step to put the originality statement coming back in that setup. But when the students submit, they submit to Canvas. The assignment is stored in Canvas, and a copy is sent to Turnitin. And then the originality statement is returned to Canvas. And so the academic then goes in Canvas into SpeedGrader and sees the originality report in there. So you're effectively not using Turnitin to do the marking and storing those marks, so you don't have any of the sick problem. So it actually solves that.
So from your perspective, the only negative with the academic, those is it the quick marks?
Yeah, it's the loss of functionality. So they really like the mobile Turnitin experience and being able to share the comments. So we have people sharing the comments across multiple markers. So clearly you can't do that in SpeedGrader. And
so once you move to the new framework, that's gone. It's not even.
No, you can run both at the same time. So
okay.
So they seem to be totally compatible. You can have both running and leave it up to the academic to determine.
So if you turn off the LTI, this new plagiarism framework, that's not even an option.
So if you've got Turnitin running at the moment, then you need to install a new Turnitin LTI to get the framework working. And as I said, when we first did that in beta, they gave us what ended up with was multiple LTIs, and you have to pick the right one. They're telling us that there'll just be the two. There'll be the one for the standard, and there'll be the one for the plagiarism framework. And so it'll require you to tell your academics that if they want to set up the external tool one, that they have to pick the right one. And so it's going to be a naming thing. You're going to have to name the LTI so that they pick the right one for the external tool. The internal tool, they don't really pick anything. It's just there, so they don't have to worry about it. So it's a little bit of common stuff that you're going to have to deal with.
I think my preference would be to just give the new one and not an option.
I would agree. If we had never used Turnitin, I would turn off the external one and only have it internally. But it's a feature that our academics are used to. If I turned it off, I'd get yelled at.
If they were only a bit earlier, we could just say, oh, that's just Canvas. You don't have it anymore. So. Okay, thanks. That's been really helpful.
Again, it's Mark again. I don't want to talk too much, but we've just been getting ourselves ready for semester one, and so we've been adding new features. And I just thought one of the features you might be interested in is we have PeopleSoft, so our student system controls all access to the learning management system, but we find that quite a cumbersome process. And there are a number of roles that the student system doesn't really understand. So we've built an LTI to add people to courses. And so our LTI uses a back-end system that we've got that actually takes the student system data and munges it and gets it into the right format for Canvas. So we've built an LTI that connects to that, and we now allow our academic staff to add what we call auditing students, teaching assistant and observer roles into their courses. And we've done that because we have not turned on in the people section the ability to add somebody into the course. Because from our point of view, having that button there meant people could add students, they could add teachers and all that sort of stuff. And that data needs to be controlled in our student system, not in the learning management system. Yeah. So that's been just in for about a week or so now. Academics are starting to find it and go, oh, this is great. It now gives me the freedom to add these other people that really aren't part of our delivery of a course as part of a program, but are involved in the course in some way. So I just sort of mentioned, if anybody's interested, we could talk more about that offline.
We have a full metalware that does all of that sort of stuff, but we are looking at what next in terms of replacing that. So that sounds like a good idea, a mixture of the student information system, putting the student, but letting the staff add non-students. So maybe.
Would that be something you might be willing to demonstrate, Mark, if that's doable, possible, and allowable? Marcus has also said that he'd be curious to see it in action.
Yeah, if you want to give me share screen, I'll show you now.
Oh, perfect. Even better. 1 second.
No secrets between friends, hey?
Everyone's co-hosting today. Alrighty, you should be able to share your screen now.
Continue. Let's see. Okay. Can I find the screen I want to share? Too many screens open. There it is. Share screen.
Beautiful.
So, which screen are you seeing? Are you seeing the APAC screen, or are you seeing a screen that's got home written on it?
A screen that's got home written on it.
Okay, great. So this is just a course within one of our areas. We use sub accounts and try and divide things up. So this is the area where we put all of our courses, and so this is just a blank course. So you can see all of the normal things down there. So I'm an admin, so I get this. But if you go into people. If you're an academic, you went into people, you wouldn't get this people button over on the right-hand side. We just don't, the button's just not available. We've turned that off. So we've created this LTI. We've called it Toolkit because we intend to add a whole heap of other things. We've got a learning analytics one that we're building up. We'll probably end up with a few more over the next couple of months. So we've got this thing that we call Toolkit. There you go. Live demonstrations. Aren't they fun? I'm wondering why that has decided to die on me. Okay. What I will have to do is now I'm starting to get into what I probably shouldn't be doing. I'll just pick a course. So this is a live course. Was it 387? So we use things called, our user IDs are A numbers. So everybody in the university has a unique A number. So if I put my A number in here, and then I can select a role. So here's the 3 roles that we allow somebody to be. We then select the section. So we use sections. So our class data coming out of our student system, be it lectures, tutorials, sort of labs or whatever. We create a section based on those class. Generally, the Gen classes are a holdover from Blackboard where we have to have everything in one spot. Because PeopleSoft is such a kludgy bit of software, we find that academics tend to use the Gen class now for all our academic enrolments. I'd like to fix that, but there's work issues. So you can pick a section, and you can then say, all right, I'll add this me as an observer to that section. I'll go next, and then it basically checks that I'm actually a person. So you say, okay, that's who you really want, and then if I won't do it, if I hit add user, it then goes into our back-end system and says, right, add this person. Then it runs every few minutes, and then it'll just add that person into the course, and then they will appear. I'll go back. So they would then appear in the course list that you see in People as that role. Now, beginning of semester, we haven't put in, the reason why I'm not going to push that add me is because we haven't put in to remove me yet. So, and as soon as I've shown this to academics, oh, this is fantastic, how do I remove somebody? And so that we'll get that in before the end of semester. So yeah, so that's a quick demonstration.
That's great, thank you. I will. I'll just note that I will snip that out of the recording before I put it up, because that was a live course. So for obvious reasons, I'll snip that out. Everyone that was here was lucky to see it.
Okay. I don't think there's much of an issue. Only saw the homepage. I didn't see any student data. Don't
Okay.
Wouldn't worry about it out.
Okay. If you're happy to leave it in, that'd be great.
Yeah, I don't think I'm overly concerned about that. Colleen can yell at me if she thinks I'm doing something wrong.
Awesome. Alrighty. I will share back to my screen. One sec. All right. Any other last and final things? Anyone got any final thoughts?
Sorry, Mark. There was a question. I'm not sure if you answered it. It says that looks like the Rails app. Is that correct?
Yeah.
It's Rails.
Yes, it is Rails.
Excellent. That was a great demo. Thank you. So as always, so there is one little final piece of information that I will share with you. So a couple of people got caught unawares yesterday with their not having their time zone set up. And so the event looked like it was running yesterday in about the middle of the day. So there is a document which I've just shared to the live chat. I'd strongly recommend everyone goes in and just sets up their time zone on their user profile in Jive in the Canvas community. That will ensure that you get the proper date and time when you're looking at it. I will also, in future sessions, put a little note at the top to let everyone know that, just so that hopefully no one else gets caught unawares. So I think that's everything. Thank you very much for everyone coming today. And if you have any ideas of something that you'd like to see in the next session, something that you'd like to present, please let me know. I'm currently looking to see if I can get a session perhaps set up with Julian if there for product. If there are any other sessions you'd like me to try and arrange, please let me know. And I will, in the next, probably early next week, send out a new invite for the new session, which I will put 1 week into the beta release notes so that we can have a discussion after everyone's had time to have a bit of a play and tinker. Alrighty, everyone. Thank you very much and have a lovely weekend.
Thanks, Stuart.
Thanks, Stuart.